Joining us right now, a man who just got his wish. He won the auction to watch a Monday Night Football game in Roger Goodell's man cave. That is El Presidente, Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports. Dave, good morning. What's happening, man?
How's it going? I'm good.
So $250,000 to be able to do this, and I've seen all your videos after you won this, and I know that you are not backing down. You had a Roger Goodell piñata sent to you, and you said you were going to piñata the F out of him at halftime while watching this game. There's no way that he has fun with this and goes along and tries to show a human side, right? You're not expecting them to actually go through with this, even though you've made this donation and won this auction for $250,000.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they honored the agreement. I would say, crazier things have happened. I mean, we're in a corona pandemic. That may be crazier. But other than that, I don't know that anything would be more surprising than him actually honoring the agreement. But we'll see. We shall see.
Well, the one thing I will say, he's usually a man of his word. I know him personally. So the question would be, if it does go through, what are you hoping to accomplish?
Oh, well, I'll hit him with every single question. I disagree with you, Boomer. I don't think he's a man of his word. I think he's told, at least publicly, a million lies. And very rarely has he ever had or given the opportunity to a reporter or anybody to ask him difficult questions, whether it be about Bountygate, Deflategate, concussions. He generally surrounds himself with softball questions. So I'd like to ask all the questions I feel like he's either never been asked or outright not given an honest answer to.
Well, the thing about it, he is a commissioner of a professional sports league, so he does have a job, and he is, I guess, the mouthpiece of 32 different owners, and they collectively tell him what to do and how to do it. But for the most part, I would say, and I don't want to even get into an argument with you, because I know that you are disgusted with him about Deflategate and the Bountygate stuff, and I know you really got into him with it in regards to Deflategate. But I guess if he invites you into his home, there's got to be something that there has to be like a level of decency. No or yes?
Well, what do you mean by decency? Like, I don't think we're going to be in a wrestling match in the round. But,
well, I mean, but you're also not going to be walking into his basement.
I can ask him every question. And let's not make it seem when we say decency like he's inviting me out of the decency of his heart. Listen, is there decency when I was at the Super Bowl, paid $5,000 for a ticket, bothering nobody, and he has me dragged out in handcuffs? Is that decency?
Were there any mitigating? I don't know all the story, the backstory to everything. No mitigating circumstances whatsoever. He just basically said, get that guy out of the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, the mitigating circumstances would have been that 4 years prior, we pulled the stunt when, with Deflategate, where we handcuffed myself and three other guys. Ironically, 5 years to the day, handcuffed ourselves to each other to talk to him. I would say that's a media stunt. I mean, but when you're a paying customer, I paid $5,000, sat through a half of the Super Bowl, all around Patriot fans, didn't bother a soul, and you have 10 security guards drag me out of there. I would say that's not decent.
Didn't you try to get into like one of the press conferences and you didn't have the proper credentials and you made up a credential and talked yourself into it?
Yeah, that's media day. But I mean, Boomer, you've been.
But that's all part and parcel of it, all right?
Yeah,
that's all part and parcel of it.
He doesn't have a sense of humor. He has no self-awareness. He's actually helped us by the fact that he continues to act like we're the Third Reich. He's made us continue to keep our outsider profile while still growing in the media business. But, he doesn't have the ability to laugh at himself. We've never done anything that somebody with any rational brain would be like, oh, these guys are a real threat. Like, I put a mustache in and ask people questions at Media Day where people are dressed as Oscar the Grouch. So I don't know that we're really, creating a big scene.
Talking to Dave Portnoy, I was going to say, I mean, you wouldn't want it any other way. I mean, the fact that he is and the NFL has treated you this way has just fueled the fire in the exact way that you want it to be fueled, right?
He could have disarmed this thing a million different times, a million different ways by really just ignoring us, to be totally honest. But, there's examples. Everything he does sort of works in my favor. Like after the Patriots won the Super Bowl, the Crafts personally gave me tickets to go to the after party, and the NFL tried to kick me out of that They were walking me out of that, and it's a Patriots party, so a crowd gathered around. The security actually had to call the Crafts and ask him whether I could stay or go. They said, let him stay. So, I mean, everything he does has helped with Barstool Sports.
Well,
and obviously, it's gotten to the level now of we have this situation. But, yeah, could he disarm it if I showed up and he was wearing the clown shirt when I walked in? Absolutely, that would disarm the situation.
Well,
do I think he's capable of that? No chance.
No. Yeah, no way. No way.
All right, we're talking to Dave Portnoy. So here's the thing, Dave. You are a dyed-to-wool Patriot fan, and you speak for the Patriot fan base, and therefore Bob Kraft has got to let you into his parties. I mean, because if he doesn't, then all of a sudden he becomes part of the bigger problem in your eyes, which is that he's a partner with Roger Goodell, and Roger Goodell speaks for 31 other teams, not just for the Patriots. So when the Colts basically tell Roger Goodell and they say, look, there's an advantage going on here by Tom Brady, he has to look into it, does he not?
Well, yeah, I mean, here's what I would say to that. When the Colts told him, which they did, before the game started, I probably, if you actually care about the integrity of the league, as Roger claims to, I would have told the Patriots, hey, the Colts are looking for this. Be careful on the watch out. He didn't. He set up a sting with Mike Kensel at halftime. And by the way, there's all sorts of he said, she said. They say DeQuell Jackson, I believe, was the guy who intercepted the ball and started this. He says that's a flat-out lie. He never said that. There's so many lies throughout the history of this thing. He says he never asked Tom Brady to give him the cell phone. Brady didn't give him the cell phone. Then he turns around and says the reason he suspended him is his cell phone. The whole thing, there's literally, well, I mean, I don't know if we got 2 weeks to do it.
Yeah, no, I know. You argued it over 6 months. And you argued it well. I know you did. I just, my whole thing is that the guy is allowing you to come into his home, I would assume.
Well, he's but after he paid $250,000 to do so.
Which I think is great, which I think Dave is great, but you can't pay for this type of media PR. You couldn't pay $250,000 for everything that you're going to get from now until that point, which I think is brilliant, which is what you guys do so well with.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I mean that clearly is an advantage of doing this, but I mean, I didn't give the forethought to say, hey, maybe one day Roger's going to invite some fan into his basement. I saw it and I said, ooh, this may work out for me. And you know what? If they were really smart, they would have just blocked my IP if they didn't want me to go, or do something and say, hey, you're ineligible. But once I won it and once I got the confirmation email, I knew they had probably stepped in it, because either way now, either he doesn't let it happen and it's another win, or he lets it happen and it's a win that way. So I'm surprised I was allowed to win the contest, to be totally honest.
All right, so a couple of questions. If the NFL and Roger Goodell come to you and say, all right, I'm willing to do this, but under these particular conditions, and one of those conditions is that this isn't filmed, or there's some stuff in there that you don't like, would you still go ahead and do that if they drafted some sort of document up and said you can't do this, this, and this?
Yes, I would still do it, but I would ignore the not film part. There's no point for me to do this in silence. I don't want to sit in a room with him just for the hell of it. I want answers to the questions I want documented. So the truth is, I'd say, okay. And then I'd show up, what are they going to take my phone and break it again?
Yeah.
I don't think this is World War II here, so I don't know that I'd let them take my phone. Filming is very important. That's the only thing that really I want the ability to do.
Well, interestingly enough, I doubt that's going to be allowed. I would think that, you're invited into his home to watch a Monday Night Football game with him and have conversation with him. If you're going to wear a GoPro or something like that, or film, a session with him to get him into some sort of awkward, ugly situation to benefit Barstool, I doubt that's going to be allowed.
Well, Boomer, I wouldn't say it's awkward, ugly. I'm going to ask questions that lots of fans, not just myself and not just fans of the Patriots, would like answers to. If that makes it awkward and comfortable to ask fair questions, then, as a commissioner of the NFL, he should be able to handle that from little old me.
Well, I get it too, but you won a viewing party of a Monday Night Football game in his basement. It doesn't say anything about holding a press conference and putting it on TV or any of that stuff.
We're going to have conversation. I would ask these questions regardless of the situation. I've been dying to ask these questions.
This is a tremendous opportunity for Goodell to turn this entire thing around and make him more human and more personable and more likable. It really is. I mean, I know that he thinks that him accepting the boos or making jokes about the boos at the draft does that, but it really doesn't. But this would.
How out of touch he is. Like the fact that he thinks the staged booing. If you want to look at the real booing and how he reacts to real booing, go back after the Patriots won the Super Bowl and he couldn't even hear himself think. He didn't look like he enjoyed that booing. He liked the fake staged booing.
Well, let's face it. The only commissioner right now that's not getting booed is Adam Silver of the NBA. All the other commissioners are just like he is, getting booed because every fan blames the commissioner for whatever problems the leagues have.
I'd agree with that, but the NFL... And the NFL is king. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's one of the few sports where, if you go back how much fans love it, that they were actually able to use, scab players. That's how much they crave it, because probably gambling. But the way he has handled major scandals, from, Ray Rice to Bountygate to Greg Hardy to Deflate. I mean, he made Deflategate, which was about 4 deflated footballs, into the lead story in the world for like 2 years. To me, he has done a very poor job in PR. Now, the business side of it, I'd argue he's the most overpaid human of any human who's ever lived. And when I say overpaid, I don't mean he's not good at his job. But like Boomer, I could never be a pro quarterback. I can't throw a football. There's very few people who have that talent. If I grew up as the son of a senator and was in the system in the NFL for as long as he could, I could do his job. And there's probably a lot of people who could. The amount he gets paid, he's got to stand and face the music. That's essentially, he gets paid $40 million a year, sort of to be a punching bag in a way, and keep the train on the tracks. And he has done a very poor job in very high-profile cases of keeping the train on the tracks.
Well, excuse me, in your eyes maybe, but in the eyes of the owners who run the league or own the league, we've seen stadium growth. We've seen, big deals from their rights holders. We've seen salaries go through the roof for players. Look, I could argue a million different things too. The concussion issue, obviously very close and near and dear to my heart. I was a player representative, so I know where we came from to where we are. The league has shown just so much growth over the last 10 to 15 years under his leadership. I mean, it's hard to argue if you were an owner that he's done much wrong.
Well, I think that's why there were rumors that at times some of the owners wanted to get rid of him. But why would you? Because it is a money train. And I guess I don't disagree with anything you said about the explosive growth, but I'm not sure that's not a combo of technology, right time, right place, all those factors. And the NFL succeeds almost despite itself. It is, that's why everyone's trying to create these other leagues. It is a league, a sport that has held this country captive, and really you'd have to do something catastrophic to knock it off the tracks.
You brought up Greg Hardy, you brought up Ray Rice. Where is the player's responsibility in all of this stuff?
Well,
in your eyes,
obviously the player's responsibility, no doubt. It's their first and foremost. I'm not trying to say, because he didn't handle those situations correctly, but Ray Rice specifically, the video obviously came out. That was in a casino. He says they couldn't find the tape. They didn't ask for the tape. They were in a casino. That incident happened in a casino. There's literally cameras every 2 steps. Why didn't he try to investigate what I would say is a much more serious issue? I think everybody would, with the same tenacity that he went after Tom Brady for 4 footballs. That would be something just on a moral.
Well, he did hire Lisa Friel, and she's a sex prosecutor. So he brought in the experts in the field to handle that kind of problem.
But why didn't you get the tape? And by the way, the casino said they sent it to the NFL office.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there was so much rehashing. We're going years back to some of this stuff. I don't think anybody thought that he initially handled the Ray Rice thing properly. When the videotape came out, he had to save face, and that's why he overcompensated after that. I mean, I think that's pretty much the deal with that. Couple of things. The $250,000, is this your own money that you're putting up for this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's your money. And also, let's say the NFL and Goodell comes back with a bunch of stipulations and says you can't film this and you got to do this, this, and this, and whatever it is, and you don't want to agree to it, and then you're put in a spot where this $250,000 of your own money is out there that you now feel like you want to pull back, but it goes to a charity, which I'm sure you'd want to help out. Like, how are you going to handle and navigate that whole thing?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty obviously it is a great cause, so that's a good situation. We do a lot with charity, but I'm almost positive if for some reason I wasn't allowed to go or I had to back out, the next bid is basically $50 below what I had.
Okay,
so I'm sure that person would just take my spot.
Okay, all right, and then you would pull the money, and the money would not go that your $250,000 wouldn't go to that particular charity.
You're right. Well, I believe it's just an NFL COVID-19 charity. So
okay,
it would,
right.
Yeah, we're doing charities, but it won't go to the NFL charity.
You also won 2 tickets to any regular season game. Do you have a game picked out, like maybe a Tampa Bay Buccaneer game or something, or?
Listen, they're my second favorite team. Don't try to pin me against him, Boomer. They're my second favorite team, and I hope we meet in Tampa and play them in the Super Bowl.
All right. So why did you tell me? Why did Tom Brady leave?
You know, my belief on it is it all centered sort of around the Garoppolo situation when they traded Garoppolo. I believe the rumors that maybe Belichick want to keep him and Kraft intervened and said we're keeping Brady, which, by the way, I don't have a problem with anybody, what they did there. That's how Belichick has kept his team relevant for a long time. If that's what went down and you hear things, I think at that point Brady had written it off that eventually he was going to leave. And by the way, I always thought he would not end his career as a Patriot. I didn't think it would be this soon, but if you just look at the history of the league and the other great quarterbacks, whether it be, Montana, Favre, guys, the great ones, they always play a long time. So it doesn't shock me, but I think he had already gone, unless Belichick came back and said, you know what, I really made a mistake and begged Tom to stay, I think then he would have, but that's just not Belichick's nature. And, again, I'm a huge Belichick guy. People have always asked me over the course of the dynasty if I only could have had one of them, which one would I choose? And I would start with Belichick. I think the coach for football is the most important position in any sport. So I think that's what happened.
So the Davey day trader stuff has been great that you've been putting out there. I'm just curious your thoughts, like the day trading and the sports gambling and some of the similarities and differences that you are experienced with both of those things.
They're very similar in my mind. They're very similar. I'm bad at both of them. Nobody loses. All I hear from is how everybody knew what the stock market and what every single stock was going to do before they did it. So everyone should be billionaires. And I think a lot of it's just flipping a coin. And I'm not talking about like long-term investing in Apple. I'm talking about, trying to make money on stocks on a daily basis, which I have failed miserably at. But it's fun, and it's the same exact rush. So I'm having a good time doing it.
Right. It's all about the entertainment at the end of the day, right? I mean, forget about the money as long as you're not digging yourself too deep of a hole. If you're being entertained, that's the goal.
Juice. It's about the juice, boys.
Right.
That's exactly what it's about. All right, so you get an email saying that you won this to spend a Monday night with Roger Goodell in his basement. There's no other side rules or anything else that came along with that email?
No, they have the right to disqualify me if they feel like it. They could basically say, you got arrested 4 years ago for protesting Deflategate. See you later. I've been told they've created a file on me by somebody close to me, and I said, I'm sure they already know who I am. And they said, no, this one's a little different. It's a dossier. So
a dossier. I love it.
I don't know what they expect to find. It's pretty much out there, but we'll see. I think Gia's right. If he wanted to play this, and play along with it, he'd come across, I'm sure, better than I would hope, but he'd come across good. There's nothing in anything that's happened with my relationship with the league in the last decade that makes me think that's going to happen.
They're going to look at this as a pain in the ass thing when they need to look at it as an opportunity. And that is the problem with them. They're going to say, I can't believe this. Look at this guy. Look at the stuff he's putting out. He's got a piñata on Twitter that he's hitting. He's cursing this. He's cursing that. That's what they're going to think. But instead, if there was someone who had a brain in that room, they would say, this opportunity for us from a PR standpoint, I mean, this stuff doesn't just come along every day. We got to play this thing right for once. But there's no shot that they will do that.
Yeah, I've had a ton of people in the league office, a ton, come up to me and be like, off the record, we love Barstool. But at somewhere, what we do, which I do consider comedy, gets lost, and they don't think it's funny. And, I don't think they're used to anybody giving them grief, to be honest, like we do, because they have so much power and so much sway, and we've lost plenty of deals along the way. I mean, we were sold fairly recently, and we had talks with all sorts of companies, and many times those talks that we had ended based on the fear of the NFL.
Yeah, we're talking to Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports. And Dave, the interesting thing as I look through all your tweets and all that other stuff, there's a lot of F-bombs thrown at the way of the commissioner.
No.
I mean, I can totally get why, why would I want to invite this guy into my house with a GoPro and a camera recording any of the conversations that we've had?
Well, there's no doubt he does not want to invite me into his house. The question is whether, because I paid $250,000 for a charity, whether he's going to invite me into his house. But it certainly isn't, he woke up and felt like, I want to be friends with Dave Portnoy today.
Well, Dave,
it sounds like you'd be a lot of fun to be a friend of.
Certainly. All right, Dave, thanks for the time this morning. Great stuff. This has been very entertaining, and I can't wait to see how it plays out.
All right, thanks, guys.
Oh, man, I hope it happens for you, Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I hope it happens actually for all of us.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. Yep. Dave Portnoy, founder of Barstool Sports, El Presidente. I really do. Listen, I know that Roger Goodell is probably allergic to the idea of having Dave Portnoy in his house, but if he just played it right, it would be good for everybody. I mean, it would be. I know that what everybody wants is for Dave to go in there with a camera and then have everything just be totally chaotic, and that's just not. That's probably not going to happen. But if he goes in there with a camera, he asks the questions he wanted to ask. Roger Goodell's got to, laughs a little bit and then answers those questions. Then, I mean, it's good for everybody. It just is.
I get the whole thing with him and Bob Kraft and the Patriots and all the stuff that, went on with Deflategate and Spygate and all that other stuff. I mean, but what Roger Goodell was offering was to watch a Monday Night Football game with him, not to come into his basement and interview him. If you want to sit there and have a beer with him and watch the game and talk football and talk about what's going on, I get it.
Yeah, well.
But you're not going to be able to – I don't believe that you're going to be able to record anything. There's no way.